The morning mist hung heavy over Windsor Castle as Prince William stood at the tall window of his private study. His hands trembled slightly as he held the official letter that would change everything. The royal seal at the bottom felt heavier than any crown he might have worn. Kate entered the room quietly, her footsteps soft against the ancient wooden floors. She had been expecting this moment for months, watching her husband struggle with sleepless nights and endless meetings behind closed doors. The letter contained words that no member of the royal family had ever written before. It was a resignation from royal duties, not just for William, but for their entire family. The decision had been brewing in William's heart for over 2 years, ever since the last public scandal had dragged their children's names through the tabloids. He remembered little Prince George crying after school, asking why strangers were saying mean things about their family on television. Kate placed her gentle hand on William's shoulder, feeling the tension that had built up over months of internal battles. They had discussed this decision countless times in whispered conversations after their children had gone to bed. The weight of centuries of tradition pressed down on them, but the weight of protecting their family pressed even harder. The palace walls that had once felt like home now felt like a beautiful prison. With every move watched and every word analyzed by millions around the world, the couple had tried everything to make their royal life work. They had modernized their approach, used social media to connect with people, and focused on causes close to their hearts. William had thrown himself into mental health advocacy, while Kate had championed early childhood development. Yet the constant scrutiny never stopped. Photographers followed their children to school. Reporters dug through their trash. Every family vacation became a public spectacle, with helicopters circling overhead in long lens, cameras capturing private moments. The breaking point came 3 months earlier during a family trip to Scotland. 8-year-old Princess Charlotte had asked her mother why she couldn't play in the garden without people taking pictures of her. Kate's heart broke as she struggled to explain why their family couldn't live like other families. That evening, William found Kate crying softly in their bedroom, holding a tabloid newspaper that featured unauthorized photos of Charlotte's birthday party with her school friends. The next morning, William called his father, King Charles, to request a private meeting. The conversation lasted for hours and ended with both men in tears. Charles understood his son's pain, remembering his own struggles with privacy during William's childhood. He had watched his grandson and granddaughter lose their carefree spirits under the constant pressure of public attention. The decision to step back wouldn't be easy for the monarchy. But Charles realized that forcing his son to stay would mean losing him forever. William's hand shook as he signed the letter that would change their lives forever. Kate signed beneath his name, her elegant signature marking the end of their royal chapter. They both knew this moment would create shockwaves around the world. The British people had grown to love them during their years of service. From their fairy tale wedding that brought joy to millions to their dedication to charity work, they had represented hope for a modern monarchy. The couple decided they would make their announcement during a live television broadcast from their home at Anmer Hall. No grand palace setting, no formal throne room, just 2 parents sitting in their comfortable living room, speaking from their hearts to the world. They wanted people to see them as the ordinary family they had always tried to be. Despite their extraordinary circumstances, as the sun began to set over the Norfolk countryside, William and Kate sat together on their favorite couch, the same one where they had celebrated Charlotte's first steps and comforted George after his first day of school. The weight of their decision settled around them like a heavy blanket. But underneath the sadness was a strange sense of relief. For the first time in years, they felt like they could breathe freely. The television cameras would arrive the next morning. By evening, their announcement would reach every corner of the globe. They knew that some people would understand their choice while others would feel betrayed or abandoned. The British tabloids would have a field day, analyzing every word and gesture from their farewell speech. But tonight, in the quiet of their home, they were simply William and Kate, a husband and wife who had chosen their family's happiness over duty. Love over tradition, they spent their last evening as working royals reading bedtime stories to their 3 children, treasuring these simple moments that had become so precious. Tomorrow would bring interviews, statements, and endless speculation about their future. Tonight belonged to their family, wrapped in the silence of their decision and the hope of a different kind of life ahead. The morning of the announcement arrived with unusual quietness around Amra Hall. Even the birds seemed to sense that this day would be different from any other in British royal history. William woke up before dawn, unable to sleep, and found himself walking through the gardens he and Kate had planted together during happier times. Each flower bed held memories of family picnics, Easter egg hunts, and lazy summer afternoons when they could pretend to be just another normal family. Kate discovered him sitting on the old wooden swing that hung from the oak tree where Prince George had taken his first confident steps. Her husband looked older than his years, the stress of their decision etched in the lines around his eyes. She sat beside him without saying a word, and they watched the sunrise together. Knowing it would be their last dawn as the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, the children were unusually quiet at breakfast. Sensing the tension in their parents despite William and Kate's attempts to maintain normalcy, Prince George kept glancing at his father with worried eyes, while Princess Charlotte stayed close to her mother's side. Little Prince Louis, still too young to understand the gravity of the situation, played happily with his toy cars, providing the only sounds of childhood joy in their normally lively kitchen. The BBC News crew arrived at precisely 9 in the morning. Their equipment trucks looking strangely out of place in the peaceful countryside setting. William shook hands with each crew member personally, thanking them for their discretion and professionalism over the years. Many of these cameramen and reporters had covered their wedding, the births of their children, and countless royal engagements. Some had tears in their eyes as they set up their equipment. Understanding that they were about to witness history, Kate spent the morning helping their children pack some personal items they wanted to take with them to their temporary residence. They had decided to move to a private estate in the Lake District, far from the prying eyes of London tabloids and tourists who gathered daily outside their current home. The children didn't fully understand why they were leaving, but they trusted their parents and seemed excited about the adventure of living somewhere new. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, William and Kate sat down in front of the cameras for what would be their final interview. As working members of the royal family, Kate wore a simple navy blue dress that had been her grandmother's, while William chose a plain suit without any of his military decorations or royal insignia. They wanted to appear as ordinary people making an extraordinary decision, not as distant royals abandoning their duties. The interviewer, veteran journalist Sarah Mitchell, had covered the royal family for over 20 years. She had watched William grow from a shy teenager dealing with his mother's death to a confident prince and devoted father. Her first question was gentle but direct. "Your Royal Highnesses, can you help the British people understand why you've made this unprecedented decision?" William's voice was steady but emotional as he began to explain their choice. He spoke about the impossible balance between serving the crown and protecting their children. He described sleepless nights worrying about Charlotte's mental health after she had been bullied at school because of paparazzi photos. He talked about George's anxiety attacks when photographers followed their family to private birthday parties for his friends. Kate's voice broke slightly as she shared her perspective on their decision. She talked about the morning she found 6-year-old Louis crying because he had heard a radio report criticizing his parents. She described the heartbreak of watching her children lose their spontaneous joy, becoming cautious and withdrawn in public spaces. The cameras captured tears rolling down her cheeks as she explained how they had tried everything to make their royal role work, while keeping their family intact. The most powerful moment came when William read directly from a letter that Prince George had written to his grandfather, King Charles, 3 weeks earlier. In his careful child's handwriting, George had asked if they could move somewhere quiet where he could play football without people taking pictures. The innocent request from their eldest son had been the final push William and Kate needed to make their decision final. Throughout the interview, both William and Kate emphasized their deep love and respect for the British people. They spoke about the incredible privilege of serving the nation and the meaningful relationships they had built through their charity work. Kate's voice strengthened as she described their plans to continue supporting causes close to their hearts. Just without the formal royal framework that had defined their adult lives, The interview concluded with William reading their formal statement of resignation from royal duties. His hands trembled as he read the words that would change the monarchy forever. The statement thanked the British people for their support over the years and asked for privacy as their family began their new chapter. As the cameras stopped rolling, Sarah Mitchell removed her earpiece and quietly said, "Thank you for your honesty. The country will miss you both." That evening, as news of their interview spread around the world, William and Kate sat together in their living room, holding hands and watching their children play one last game in the garden where they had spent so many happy moments as a royal family. Within hours of their interview airing, the world erupted in response to William and Kate's announcement. Social media platforms crashed from the overwhelming volume of comments, shares, and reactions. The hashtag Royal Farewell began trending worldwide, with millions of people expressing everything from heartbroken support to angry disappointment. News channels across every continent interrupted their regular programming to discuss what many were calling the most shocking royal announcement since King Edward VIII abdicated in 1936. The British public's reaction was deeply divided and intensely emotional. Outside Buckingham Palace, crowds began gathering spontaneously, some laying flowers and cards expressing their understanding and support for the couple's decision. Many parents in the crowd held signs reading, "Protect your children first," and "Family over duty." These supporters understood the impossible pressure William and Kate faced, remembering how the paparazzi had contributed to Princess Diana's tragic death years earlier. However, not everyone supported their choice to step away from royal responsibilities. A significant portion of the British population felt abandoned and betrayed by the couple they had loved and supported for over a decade. Outside Westminster, protesters gathered with signs demanding that William reconsider his decision. Elderly veterans who had met William during various military ceremonies expressed feeling forgotten by the prince they had respected and admired. The international response was equally intense and varied. In Australia, where William and Kate had conducted several successful royal tours, Prime Minister Sarah Collins issued a statement expressing understanding for their decision while emphasizing the strong bonds between Australia and the British monarchy. The Canadian government released similar sentiments, with many citizens sharing personal stories of meeting the royal couple during their visits to Toronto and Vancouver. American media coverage was particularly sympathetic to the couples, with many commentators drawing parallels to their own experiences with celebrity culture and paparazzi intrusion. Talk show host Ellen DeGeneres dedicated an entire segment to discussing the price of fame and the importance of protecting children from unwanted media attention. Her emotional monologue resonated with millions of viewers who had watched William and Kate grow into their roles as parents under the unforgiving spotlight of global attention. In their temporary residence in the Lake District, William and Kate tried to shield their children from the media storm surrounding their announcement. They had deliberately chosen a location without television or internet access in the main house, wanting to give George, Charlotte, and Louis a few days of peace before the family faced the reality of their new situation. The children spent their days exploring the surrounding countryside, fishing in nearby streams, and playing games that had been impossible in their previous highly secured royal residences. Meanwhile, King Charles found himself managing the most serious constitutional crisis of his reign. Emergency meetings with government officials, church leaders, and Commonwealth representatives filled his calendar from dawn to midnight. The Archbishop of Canterbury requested a private audience to discuss the implications for the Church of England, while the Prime Minister needed reassurance that the monarchy would remain stable despite losing one of its most popular members. The most heartbreaking responses came from the charities and organizations that William and Kate had supported throughout their royal careers. The mental health foundation that William had championed received thousands of messages from people worried about the future of their programs. Kate's early childhood development initiative faced uncertainty about continued royal patronage, with many volunteers expressing concern about maintaining funding and public attention for their crucial work. Letters and emails poured into the royal household from around the world. A teacher from Manchester wrote about how William's visit to her school had inspired her students to believe in themselves A veteran from Edinburgh shared how Kate's genuine conversation during a charity event had helped him through his darkest period with PTSD. These personal stories highlighted the real impact that the couple's royal work had made in individual lives across Britain and the Commonwealth. The tabloid newspapers had a field day with the announcement, running sensational headlines and speculative stories about the family's future. Some publications tried to blame Kate for influencing William's decision, while others suggested that the couple was being selfish and ungrateful for their privileged position. The more responsible broadsheet newspapers took a more measured approach, running thoughtful editorial pieces about the evolution of the monarchy and the challenges facing modern royal families. Social media became a battleground between supporters and critics of the couple's decision. Celebrity supporters like David Beckham and Emma Watson posted messages of understanding and respect for William and Kate's choice to prioritize their children's well-being. However, these supportive voices were matched by angry critics who felt that the royal family was abandoning their duty to the nation during challenging times. The stock market reacted negatively to the news, with tourism-related businesses seeing their share prices drop as investors worried about the impact on Britain's royal tourism industry. Hotels near Windsor Castle and other royal attractions reported immediate cancellations from international visitors who had planned trips specifically to see William and Kate at official engagements. As the first week after their announcement drew to a close, William and Kate received a private letter from Queen Elizabeth II, delivered by special courier to their Lake District retreat. The letter, written in the late Queen's familiar handwriting, had been penned shortly before her death, but sealed with instructions to be opened only in the event that William ever chose to step away from royal duties. Her final words to them were simple but profound. Love your children first. Serve your hearts second, and know that duty takes many forms. You have my blessing always. 3 weeks after their announcement, William and Kate faced their final official royal engagement together. The ceremony at Westminster Abbey was meant to honor military veterans, an event that William had committed 2 months before their decision to step away from royal duties. Both knew they couldn't disappoint the hundreds of servicemen and women who had served their country with the same dedication that William and Kate had shown to the crown. The morning of the event, Kate stood in front of her mirror, putting on royal regalia for what she knew would be the last time. Her deep blue dress was elegant but simple, and she chose jewelry that had belonged to Princess Diana rather than pieces from the crown jewels. Every accessory felt heavier than usual, weighted with the knowledge that she would soon pack these formal clothes away forever. William struggled with his military uniform, his hands shaking as he fastened the ceremonial medals across his chest. Each decoration represented years of service, memories of fellow soldiers, and moments of pride in serving his country. His equerry, Major James Harrison, who had worked with William for 8 years, helped him with the final adjustments while fighting back his own tears. The drive to Westminster Abbey was unlike any they had experienced before. Usually, crowds of well-wishers would line the streets, waving flags and cheering as their car passed. Today, the atmosphere was different. People still gathered, but many held tissues instead of flags, and their cheers were mixed with calls of "We'll miss you" and "Thank you for everything." Inside the Abbey, the congregation was filled with faces William and Kate had come to know well over their years of service. Military leaders who had briefed them on overseas missions, charity workers they had supported through difficult campaigns, and ordinary citizens whose lives they had touched during countless public engagements. Many guests were crying before the ceremony even began. The service itself was beautiful but heartbreaking. When William read from the biblical passage about service and sacrifice, his voice cracked with emotion. Kate struggled to maintain her composure during the hymns, thinking about all the similar ceremonies they would never attend together as representatives of the crown. The Archbishop's blessing seemed to acknowledge not just the veterans being honored, but also the service that William and Kate themselves were ending. After the formal ceremony, William and Kate participated in the traditional meet and greet with guests. This part was always their favorite aspect of royal engagements. The chance to have real conversations with real people about their lives and concerns. Today, nearly every conversation became an emotional goodbye. An elderly veteran named Arthur Thompson, who had met William 3 times over the years, grabbed the prince's hand and whispered, "You're doing the right thing, son." Family first. One of the most touching moments came when Sarah Jenkins, a military widow whose husband had died in Afghanistan, approached Kate with tears in her eyes. She handed Kate a small wooden box containing her late husband's Medal of Honor. "He would have wanted you to have this," she said. "You've honored all of us by how you've served. Now go and honor your children." Kate accepted the gift with trembling hands. Knowing she would treasure it forever, the couple's last official photograph as working royals was taken on the steps of Westminster Abbey. They stood close together, William's hand on Kate's back, both looking directly into the camera with expressions that mixed sadness with determination. This image would later appear on the front pages of newspapers around the world, becoming an iconic symbol of their decision to choose family over duty. As they left the Abbey, something unexpected happened. The military band, without any official direction, began playing "God Save the King," followed immediately by "Land of Hope and Glory." The congregation spontaneously stood and began singing along, creating an impromptu farewell tribute that hadn't been planned by any royal protocol office. William and Kate stopped on the Abbey steps, turning to face the singing crowd, both wiping away tears as hundreds of voices rose in tribute to their service. The drive back to their temporary home was conducted in complete silence. Both William and Kate were emotionally drained from saying goodbye to the life they had known for over a decade. Their protection officer, who had been with them since their engagement, quietly handed Kate a box of tissues without saying a word. Even their usually professional security team seemed affected by the gravity of the day. That evening, they sat together in their Lake District cottage, still wearing their formal clothes, processing what they had just experienced. The ceremony had been perfect closure to their royal chapter, but it also drove home the reality of what they were leaving behind. They had spent years building relationships with military families, charity organizations, and community groups that they would no longer be able to support in an official capacity. Kate found herself looking through her engagement calendar, seeing all the future events that would now have to be covered by other members of the royal family. A children's hospital opening in Manchester that she had been particularly excited about. A mental health conference in Scotland that William had been scheduled to keynote. Dozens of smaller engagements that might seem routine to others but had given their royal service real meaning and purpose. William called his brother Harry that night. Their first conversation since the announcement. Despite their strained relationship in recent years, Harry understood better than anyone the pressures that had led to William's decision. "You're braver than I was," Harry told his older brother. "You found a way to put your family first while still ending things with dignity." The conversation lasted 2 hours, healing some of the wounds between the brothers as they discussed the possible choices that come with being born into the royal family. As they prepared for bed, Kate found William sitting by the window, looking out at the quiet countryside that had become their temporary sanctuary. "Do you regret it?" she asked softly. William was quiet for a long moment before answering. "I regret that it came to this choice," he said. "But I don't regret choosing us. I don't regret choosing them." He gestured toward the children's bedrooms, where George, Charlotte, and Louis slept peacefully, unaware that their parents had just closed the most important chapter of their adult lives. 6 months after their departure from royal duties, William and Kate had established a new rhythm of life that felt both foreign and wonderfully normal. They had purchased a modest manor house in the Cotswolds, choosing the location for its excellent schools and distance from London's media circus. The house came with enough land for the children to run free and explore, something that had been impossible during their years of living under constant security protocols. The adjustment period had been more challenging than either of them had anticipated. William struggled with what he called civilian syndrome, the strange feeling of waking up each morning without a packed schedule of official engagements. For over a decade, his days had been planned months in advance by a team of private secretaries and equerries. Now he found himself making his own coffee, taking his children to school personally, and having conversations with other parents about ordinary things like homework and weekend football matches. Kate discovered both freedom and isolation in her new life. She could grocery shop without bodyguards, take long walks through the village, and have spontaneous lunch dates with friends she had barely seen during her royal years. However, she also missed the meaningful purpose that her charity work had provided. The early childhood development programs she had championed now seemed distant from her daily reality, even though she continued to support them financially through anonymous donations. The children adapted to their new life with a remarkable resilience that only young people possess. Prince George, now attending the local village school under the name George Wales, initially struggled with the attention from classmates who recognized him from television. However, his teacher, Mrs. Patricia Williams, had experience with celebrity children and created an environment where George could just be another student, learning math and reading stories during circle time. Princess Charlotte thrived in her new environment, making friends easily and joining the local Girl Guides troupe. She particularly loved that she could ride her bicycle to friends' houses without a security escort following behind. Her artistic talents, previously constrained by royal protocol about what was appropriate for public display, began flourishing as she painted landscapes of their new countryside home and created elaborate fairy houses in their garden. Little Prince Louis, still very young, seemed happiest of all with the change. He had never fully understood why strangers used to take his picture constantly, and he embraced the freedom to play in puddles, climb trees, and get properly dirty during outdoor adventures. His laughter filled their new home in ways that had been rare during their time at Kensington Palace, where even family time often felt formal and watched. The media attention gradually decreased, though it never completely disappeared. Occasionally, photographers with long lenses would position themselves outside the children's schools or near their favorite family walking trails. However, without the official royal engagements and public appearances, there was less demand for current photographs of the family. The tabloids shifted their focus to other members of the royal family, particularly focusing on King Charles and the increased responsibilities he faced without William's support. William found purpose in unexpected places during their transition period. He began volunteering anonymously with a local mental health charity, using his years of advocacy experience to help design programs for rural communities. The work was deeply fulfilling because he could focus on results rather than publicity, helping people without the constant pressure of representing the crown with every word and action. Kate discovered a passion for teaching that surprised everyone, including herself. She began substitute teaching at the village primary school, initially just helping with reading programs, but eventually taking on regular classroom responsibilities. The children in her classes had no idea of her previous royal status, knowing her simply as Mrs. Wales, who made learning fun and always had time to listen to their concerns. Their relationship with the rest of the royal family remained complicated but was slowly healing. King Charles visited them privately several times, always arriving in unmarked cars and spending quiet afternoons playing with his grandchildren in the garden. These visits were kept completely secret from the media, allowing grandfather and father to rebuild their relationship away from the pressures of royal duty and public expectations. The most surprising development was how the local community gradually accepted them as ordinary residents rather than former royals. The postman, David Fletcher, began leaving packages at their door without ceremony. Their neighbors invited them to community events without treating them as special guests. The local pub owner, Margaret Thompson, served them Sunday lunch at corner tables where they could eat without disruption or staring from other patrons. However, the transition wasn't without its emotional challenges. William experienced periods of depression as he questioned whether they had made the right choice. Some days, watching news coverage of royal events he should have been attending, he felt guilty about abandoning his birthright and the people who had supported him throughout his life. Kate often found him staring out windows during these difficult moments, and she learned to simply sit beside him without trying to fix his complicated feelings. Kate had her own struggles with identity and purpose. After years of being defined by her role as a future queen, she sometimes felt lost in the freedom of ordinary life. She missed the structured importance of royal engagements and wondered, If their charitable work had been replaced by anything equally meaningful, therapy sessions with a counselor who specialized in life transitions helped her work through these complex emotions. The couple's relationship deepened during this period of adjustment. Without the pressures of royal duties, they rediscovered aspects of their partnership that had been overshadowed by official responsibilities. They took long evening walks together, had uninterrupted conversations about their hopes for their children's futures, and made love without worrying about early morning official engagements or photographers, documenting their every public appearance as autumn approached. Bringing the anniversary of their departure from royal life, both William and Kate felt increasingly confident in their decision. They had weathered the storm of public criticism, found new sources of purpose and meaning, and watched their children flourish in ways that would have been impossible under the constraints of royal protocol. Their love story, which had begun in the spotlight of global attention, was finally being written in the quiet privacy they had always craved. 2 years after leaving their royal duties behind, William and Kate's new life had found its natural rhythm in the peaceful Cotswolds countryside. The cottage they had purchased had been transformed into a true family home, with children's artwork covering the refrigerator, muddy boots by the back door, and the comfortable chaos that comes with 3 active children living without the constraints of royal protocol. On a crisp October morning, Kate stood in her kitchen making breakfast for the family, something she had rarely done during their years at Kensington Palace. The simple act of scrambling eggs while listening to the local radio station had become one of her favorite daily rituals. William appeared in his pajamas and dressing gown, hair messy from sleep, looking more relaxed than he had in years of royal service. Their eldest son, George, now 10 years old, had fully adapted to life as an ordinary schoolboy. He excelled in mathematics and had joined the school cricket team, where his teammates valued his batting skills more than his royal heritage. His teacher, Mrs. Williams, often commented to Kate during parent conferences about George's kindness and maturity, qualities that seemed to come naturally rather than from royal training. Princess Charlotte had become the star of the local drama society, landing the lead role in the village's Christmas production. Her confidence and natural stage presence shone brightest when she wasn't being watched by royal photographers. She had also discovered a talent for horseback riding, spending Saturday mornings at the local stables where she was known simply as Charlie to the other young riders. Prince Louis, now 5 years old, attended the village nursery school where he was famous for his elaborate Lego creations and his ability to make friends with anyone. His teachers marveled at his emotional intelligence and natural empathy, qualities that flourished in an environment where he could develop relationships without security, concerns, or media scrutiny. The family's daily routines had settled into patterns that felt both ordinary and precious. School runs became opportunities for William and Kate to chat with other parents about homework frustrations and weekend plans. Saturday mornings meant family bicycle rides through the countryside, stopping at the local farmer's market where they bought fresh bread and seasonal vegetables. Like any other family, William had found his professional calling through establishing a private foundation focused on rural mental health services, working under his legal name rather than his royal title. He had quietly built partnerships with existing charities to bring counseling and support services to isolated farming communities. His work was deeply meaningful because success was measured by lives improved rather than positive newspaper coverage. Kate's teaching career had evolved beyond substitute work to permanent position at the village school, where she specialized in helping children with learning difficulties. Her classroom became known as the place where struggling students found their confidence again. Parents throughout the area requested specifically for their children to be placed in Mrs. Wales' class, not because of her former royal status, but because of her remarkable ability to connect with young minds. The couple's relationship with the broader royal family had gradually healed over the 2 years since their departure. King Charles visited regularly, always arriving quietly and spending time playing with his grandchildren in the garden. These visits were treasured by everyone involved, allowing the family to maintain their bonds without the complications of official royal protocol. Prince Harry and Meghan had become unexpected allies and friends during this transition period. Despite their own complicated history with royal life, they provided emotional support and practical advice about maintaining privacy while building meaningful lives outside the royal framework. The four of them had developed a close friendship. Based on shared understanding of the unique challenges they had all faced, the media attention had largely faded, though occasional stories still appeared about their new life. However, these articles were generally respectful and focused more on their charitable work than their personal lives. The British public had gradually accepted their decision, with polls showing increased support for their choice as people saw how happy and healthy their children appeared. One evening in late autumn, as the family sat around their fireplace playing board games, a news report came on television about King Charles opening a new children's hospital. William watched his father performing the ribbon-cutting ceremony and felt a complex mix of emotions. There was some sadness about the official role he no longer played, but it was overwhelmed by gratitude for the peaceful evening he was spending with his own children. Kate noticed William's thoughtful expression and squeezed his hand gently. "Any regrets?" she asked quietly, the same question she had posed on their last night as working royals. William looked around at their cozy living room, where Charlotte was helping Louis with a puzzle, while George read quietly in the corner chair. "Only that it took us so long to find the courage to choose this," he answered, as the children prepared for bed. Following routines they had established in their new life, William and Kate reflected on how completely their world had changed. Their Christmas cards would go out signed simply as the Wales family, rather than with royal titles. Their holiday plans involved visiting Kate's parents and building snowmen. Rather than attending state banquets and official ceremonies, the final scene of their royal chapter came quietly, without fanfare or media attention. On a cold December evening, William received a phone call informing him that his formal titles had been officially transferred to other family members. The Duke of Cambridge title would remain vacant, a mark of respect for his years of service, while his charitable patronages had been distributed among other working royals that night. As they lay in bed listening to the wind rustling through the trees around their cottage, Kate asked William if he ever wondered what their lives would have been like if they had stayed. "Sometimes," he admitted, "but then I hear Louis laughing in his sleep, or watch Charlotte performing in her school play without security guards in the audience, or see George making friends who like him for who he is rather than what he represents. And I know we made the only choice we could live with." Their love story had begun with a fairy tale wedding watched by billions around the world. It was ending, or perhaps truly beginning, in the quiet privacy of a country cottage where three children slept safely upstairs, dreaming ordinary dreams of school friends and weekend adventures. In choosing love over duty, family over tradition, and privacy over publicity, William and Kate had written their own ending to a story the world thought they knew. Their royal farewell had indeed been conducted in silence, but their new beginning was filled with the joyful noise of a family finally free to be themselves.